Welcome to another episode of The Second Coming. I'm here with Brother T, and I'm your host, Jason Keaton, and we have a good topic for you today. So, Brother T, how's your week?
It's going really well. Going really well. And it's just lots of change in the air. We talked a little bit about some of those things last week on our podcast, Jason, but I'm glad to see how many people are stepping up and helping their brothers and sisters through all the calamities that we faced in these last few weeks. 2 hurricanes in 1 month, that's a pretty big deal, in less than a few weeks. Two major hurricanes.
Yeah.
And one, in fact, affected, several states in the Southeast. And boy, people responding to helping their neighbors was a beautiful thing to witness. And I know the struggles and the calamity that ensued from that was heartbreaking for a lot of people. A lot of people lost, their livelihoods and their homes and their cars and some of their family members. And all of that is tragic, no doubt. And we give love and extend our love for those individuals that are experiencing grief at this point in their life. But I also want to give just a voice of appreciation, full appreciation for our brothers and sisters who followed their hearts and stepped up and gave of their hearts and helped those who were in need on this planet. These last few weeks have been a glorious thing to see the love, and I am honored to be in their company, and yours too, my brother Jason. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you, Brother T. Always good to be in your company. And my daughter was one of them. She was in South Carolina, and they were without power for 10 full days. Stayed with relatives, helped each other out. A tree fell through one of her coworkers' house and totally destroyed the house. And you look at that kind of devastation in losing so many material possessions. And I've been there before where traveled and either donated or sold everything and only had what was in 2 suitcases and a 19-foot travel trailer. And those were some of my calming, most relaxing, enlightening years where I could have peace and be with spirit. And I guess today, Brother T, when we're facing so much loss of material things, but also of life. And my question comes, we really might question our self-worth. That's, that can go in so many ways, but I mean, when, you go to a job that doesn't fulfill you, or you are sitting there and you're looking at the aftermath of what you had built, worked so hard your whole life, and now it's all gone. Can you talk a little bit about self-worth today?
Yeah, that's a good topic. So let's call in a little guidance. Let's take a good deep breath here. As the host of angels and guides and loved ones join us in our space, in this time, in this place, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. We also welcome the masters and the teachers who have brought us now to this level of consciousness and this ability to see things rightly. And we feel honored and so grateful for the wisdom of truth that has been shared with us through our brother Jesus Christ and the many masters that have been in his company over the millenniums. Behold, we make all things new. It will be so, and so it is.
So it is.
When I was young, I used to think I was my car because my self-worth was wrapped up in what kind of car I drove. I was 16 years old, and I was very interested in women, and they appeared to be very interested in, my apparent worth, which was reflected in the type of car I drove and the kind of clothes I wore and the kind of shoes I bought, and how I did what did my hair look like, right? So this goes back a couple of decades, haha, and yeah. So even my hair defined who I was. So when I ended up joining the military at the ripe old age of 18, I had very long hair. In fact, my hair was parted in the middle, and I could touch it in my back. It was very long. Well, I was a musician. I was born and raised near Nashville, and I used to travel around the country playing music. And so I was kind of a hippie and kind of a musician, country music musician. And I had this really beautiful long hair. I can't do that anymore. I don't think it would look quite the same. But anyway, when I when I got to the boot camp, officially, and arrived, the very first thing they did was they cut off all my hair. And I was devastated. I didn't really realize how much I identified my self-worth with the way my hair looked. Because my hair was symbolic of what other people thought worth was, or I thought they thought, right? I was making it all up. We make it all up, right? But I thought that I wouldn't be attractive to women if I didn't have my beautiful long hair, or if I wasn't a musician, right? But I signed up for a 4-year term, so after 4 years, I finally got over it. And after I got back out of the Navy, I never really grew my hair out long again. That was a long time ago. And there was another point in my life when I was defining my self-worth as the kind of job I had, right? Or the person that I was in partnership with. In other words, how beautiful was my wife, right? Or how much money did I have in the bank account? Or how nice was my home? Or did I have a home? How many homes did I have? What was my position at work? What was my status? How much money I had in the bank? Now, these are all constructs built on a solid foundation of illusion, fear, and guilt. Or fear, I like to use the word blame, because we guilt ourselves out, and then when we see something in ourselves that we judge ourselves for, we see it outside of ourselves and we blame people and we project it onto them. And for about a half a second, it makes us feel better. But once you project anything on anybody in the name of blame or guilt, it just more scoops of guilt on top of your little ice cream cone, right? So the whole point of all of this conversation I've shared with you so far is that your self-worth, your worth was given you by God. You are as God created you, and you can't change it. You can't change your worth because you are a miracle. What's a miracle worth? There's no comparison. And since all is one and you and God are one, you have the worth of the power of God at your disposal. When you wake up to the self-realization that you are as God created you to be. So why in the world would you ever look outside of yourself at what somebody else thought your worth was, or your property or your possessions, and the ego thinks it owns other people. You own your spouse, you own everything that comes into your life is a present. You own nothing. You came in naked and you're going to go out naked. I'm sorry to say. You are not your body. You're not even your body. You're spirit. You're this beautiful expression of love in spirit, and you literally are the conduit of the thoughts of God to be expressed everywhere you are present too. I love that language, right? because I can be present to this conversation right now and be the expression of love. And so my worth truly is the love I express to you and whoever you are and wherever you are. I give you my full appreciation. That's my real worth. And it's a gift I give to you. And as soon as I give it, I just keep receiving more. I feel it right now, don't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can be confused by the calamity of our ego. The thought system of fear is very hypnotic, Jason. But our true worth has nothing to do with how much property we have, how many relationships we have, who we think we own, the job we have, the title we have, how much money we have, the car, none of that. Even how your body looks does not define your worth in the least. And I'll say one more thing before I pass back control to you. And that is, no act that you've ever committed, no matter how heinous you might think it is or how much you've judged yourself for it, affects your worth 1 cubit, not 1 iota. God defined your worth in your creation, and you can't change it. You can't mar it or trash it or throw trash on it. You can't change it at all, because the truth is you are a divine gift to all of the universe as an extension of what God is. You are. I am that I am. Word, I am word. I am the energy of love itself, expressing as my Father, Mother God has created me to be. Back to you, Jason.
Oh yeah, it's easy to get wrapped up in that, and it's all ego, right? And the more you have, the more fear you have of losing it, or fear. I'll give you an example. I literally had basically nothing. I had 2 suitcases of clothes and a 19-foot travel trailer, and I happened to be in Aspen, Colorado at a yoga studio. I was literally in the presence of a couple billionaires who became interested in this, vagabond lifestyle that I had chosen to live for a year. And one billionaire said, "Wow," he goes, "I wish I could do that." I'm like, you're a billionaire. I'm sure you could. I don't know if I have $300 left for the month. I'm pretty sure you could. But it was so enlightening to me at that moment to witness the ego not being able to give up any of it. It was amazing. It was amazing. And we hold on to things in our identity so tight. And I guess a follow-up question would be, how can we just see the truth? And we have so much pressure. There's so much pressure on almost every single other human you interact with, or maybe not. Maybe it's all coming from within, but something in the ego really puts pressure on us. How do we break free from that?
Well, number one is to realize that it's not you. You're not your ego. So you grab control away from it and you say, give me back that steering wheel. You're no longer, I'm going to have my cat drive the bus, would do a better job, right? My cat would do a lot better job at driving the bus. Well, the cat would probably drive me over the cliff, of course. But the point is that the ego, if you realize that the ego is not who you really are, that is a monumental paradigm shift, monumental, right? It took me, I don't know how many hundreds of lifetimes and many, many decades in this lifetime before I even was willing to accept it. I began to accept it, Jason, when I finally just got tired of the game of chance and separation, and just started asking myself, how do you, and when I began to realize that maybe I was reincarnating, I'm like, how do I get off the planet? Because it kind of sucks, doesn't it? Especially if you're operating from a mind of fear, right? I remember at one point, I had climbed the corporate ladder and I was doing great as far as the world was concerned, but I was spinning plates and I was overwhelmed continuously, sleepless nights. Just, it was not a peaceful life or anything like it. It was an illusion. So what the ego does, Jason, is it creates an idealized, imaginative construct of who you should be, right? It says, okay, here's all the things that you are, because you're making it all up. Your ego is making all this identity up. And then it says, but you're falling far short of who you can be. And so it creates an idealized self, and you spend the rest of your life until you start waking up. Thank God for the opportunity to wake up, right? But many people spend the rest of that life, that incarnation, trying to be that idealized self. That's impossible. It never can happen. It's impossible. God created you. Here's the problem. God created you perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. And you must see yourself therefrom. If you begin to see yourself as perfect, I'm not perfect, Brother T. What are you talking about, man? I make mistakes. No, that's your ego. That's not you. That's not even you. You're hoodwinked. You're hypnotized. You're believing that you're something that you never could be, because what you've constructed yourself to be is the exact opposite of what God created you to be. You're seeing that self as imperfect, as guilty, as frail, as capable of dying, and only maybe in a form for a moment or two, so to speak, and then boom, you disappear. You cannot die. That's an illusion. You are perfect, and any other aspect or any other construct that would convince you otherwise is a lie. The ego is a liar. It's insane. So if you want to go to the insane asylum and visit with some of the inmates there, some of the people there, and allow them and require them to define who you are, good luck with that. And then try to live up to that. Because if you're expecting your egoic, fearful, thoughtless, it thinks all the time, but every thought is thoughtless. The point I want to say is that if you're going to let a mind of insanity define who you are, of course you're going to feel worthless, because it's always going to beat you up, because it's got to keep you focused on being and following its primary agenda. Seek, but do not find.
That's great. That's great. And funny enough, my sister-in-law is a nurse at State Mental Hospital, and I don't think that's a good idea for you let them define who you are, and them being our ego self also, right? I mean, we say the insanity, but we also have to. It happens to some spiritual leaders too, doesn't it? This ego, like this, putting yourself into this position where it's like, thou am enlightened, and let me be your guru.
Holier than thou.
Yeah.
You've heard that term,
right?
Jesus says that the ask people, what's the number one killer? Oh, some people say heart disease. Some people say cancer. Jesus said, nope. Self-righteousness is the number one killer. See, because once you become awakened to your true self, the ego is what is self-righteous. Your true self is humble. So you'll never experience death again when you become awakened. You really haven't ever experienced it anyway, but your ego's telling you that you're going to die, and that's what the only thing that's certain: taxes and death, right? I don't know, man, about taxes, but definitely death is not certain. You've never died. You go to sleep at night, you keep on living. You dream of a whole different dimension. And when you transcend this experience, you transcend into a higher state of awareness, because this is a sleepwalking state of mind. We talked about it here. We'll talk about it again. But self-righteousness, Jason, is what you're talking about. And of course, anyone that's operating from their egoic mind is going to be self-righteous. And some of the teachings in some of the religious theologies, not to point a finger at anybody, most all of them are full of dogma of self-righteousness. And so no wonder people or blaming and projecting on other religions because they're associated with this religion, and it excludes everybody else. That's not love. That's not God. That's not truth. That is exclusion. That is separation. That's otherness. You're othering other people and saying you're not welcome here. I call that mutually agreed upon definitions of what's acceptable, right? That's MAD, M-A-D, mutually agreed upon definitions. So to belong in that club, you got to meet the conditions. You got to believe what they believe. Otherwise, you're not even welcome. Don't even come in here. You see, it's a whole, and your self-worth can be determined by the organizations and memberships and groups that you associate with as well. So what a fun topic, but it's real simple. Take a good deep breath, right? Relax and allow yourself to be embraced by the truth that you are perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. And you must see yourself therefrom.
And one more question to follow up with this, Brother T. And this is actually going to be kind of a big one. Is like when we are thinking of our self-worth, it reminds me of people that are very close to me in my life that have been touched with depression, and sometimes really severe depression. And you know, when you get to that point of feeling your self-worth is nothing, and you know, suicide for them becomes like a thought. I mean, this is some heavy stuff here, but spiritually, what can we do to help overcome this depression that's weighing on somebody?
Well, you know, Jesus says it this way. If you're operating from the ego, you can't avoid depression. And the question is whether or not, you know, you're going to commit suicide. The question is, why wouldn't you? Because there's almost nothing joyful in a mind that's continuously judging itself harshly, hellishly, right? And so we put ourselves in hell all the time. Of course, we want to escape hell. We put ourselves in it by our own self-judgment. So if somebody is, and I'm not trying to make light of anyone's condition, please don't understand me here. Let me be clear. Love heals. And when you ask yourself, what do I love and what am I grateful for, you can work your way out of your depression. Now, the next step up from depression is actually anger. But that's a step above depression. But now you may be angry at somebody else, and you may still be projecting onto them self-blame because they're responsible for your situation. Take back your power, brothers and sisters. Nobody's responsible for your situation. You have created every experience you've ever had. You manifested it. You orchestrated it, even if you didn't know how you did it or why you did it, because you're continuously rejecting the things you want and manifesting the things you say you don't want based on your thoughts. We talked about it before. We won't get into it today, but oh my goodness, thoughts are things. Watch your thoughts.
Right. And be present, right? And the simple gratitude of the smallest things becomes so important. And and if we're loving someone going through there, holding space of love, I feel is so important. Rather than trying to fix someone, but just showing them unconditional love.
Yes, absolutely. Showing them gratitude for who they are.
Yeah.
You know, to help somebody out of depression, help them see how important they are to you and what a loving energy they've been and a healing energy in your life because they've given you self-worth.
Yeah,
so gratitude is amazing. And who are you talking to anyway? Your brother and sister? That's a Christ in the making.
Yeah.
We're all Christ in the making. Seriously. Right. So when we approach everyone as Christ and see their Christ nature, we can connect with that through our Christ nature and let the healing begin. Let the healing begin. So love them and be patient. Don't try to fix anybody. That's not your charge. You're not here to fix anybody. You're here to awaken to your own divinity. And in that awakening, everyone in your presence will be healed by that loving consciousness of who you are as Christ in perfect safety.
And so what do we remember, Brother T, if we're questioning our self-worth?
I'm sorry, Jen, say it again.
I said this was a question for you. It's like, what? Just a reminder for our viewers here, our community. If we're questioning our self-worth, what's the only thing that we have to remember?
That we are as God created us to be.
Yeah.
There's nothing to question. You're perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. You're going to hear that again if you're tuning in here, because that's the truth of who you are. That's the truth. And that's how I see you, because I see my reflection in you. I see your perfection. I see your innocence. I even want to point to the election this year. I was conditioned with a bias about political parties. Have you noticed there's a yin and yang, black and white, ups and downs, opposite, polars? Everything's polarized. I had conditioned bias. But because I practiced spiritual principle, at one point I began to see the innocence of all the parties involved. Jesus said it this way, Jason. We'll leave it as a final word. Forgive them. They know not what they do.
Beautiful, beautiful, Brother T. Thanks for tackling such a big subject for so many people, so it's grateful for, I have so much gratitude being in your presence and listening to you and being part of this spiritual community and this mission of the second coming. So thank you, Brother T. And any last words?
I'm just a mirror. So if you like what you're seeing, it's just you reflecting you, bro.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for joining us this week. And we'll see you next week on another episode of The Second Coming.
Indeed we will. Bye-bye.